Hello, what is good? Happy Friday. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Chuck, and we are almost halfway through June in 2026. We are less than 100 days away from the 30th anniversary. Today, I'm going to be talking about some of the sets that I think are primed to move here very soon. Just looking at the sell-through rate for each of them, I think there's a lot of potential for all these sets, different products to see probably a pretty significant jump as we move through the summer. So we're going to get right into it here. Obviously, Black Bolt, and we'll talk about White Flare, but Black Bolt to me represents a very interesting opportunity. I think if the news is to be true with distribution, if you haven't seen my last video, go ahead and watch it. The word on the street is that the Pokemon Company, they are going to be focusing on the 30th, and they're going to be focusing on Mega Evolution sets going forward. Scarlet and Violet sets kind of being thrown by the wayside. You know, take everything with a grain of salt, but these are coming from people who are pretty reputable. They have they're insiders on the calls from distribution and that type of thing. Black Bolt and White Flare, the interesting thing is that obviously it's two sets of one, kind of full sets that they can't really just print one or the other, right? They have to print both. So there's always going to be less product for both of these. Black Bolt is obviously the slightly better set of the two, which is why it's outperformed White Flare a little bit. But I've been calling for $200 Elite Trainer boxes for at least a couple months at this point. But like, especially recently, when you have in Pokemon, we'll talk about some other TCGs, towards the end of this video. But in Pokemon, when you have a 300% sell through rate over the course of a month, it probably means that there's not a lot of supply, and especially that there's a lot more demand. Black Bolt is a really, really strong set. Set value is what? $4,000 almost, something like that. PSA 10s of Zekrom, Victini, Zekrom are over $1,000, at least for these two. Same with the Reshiram and White Flare. So a lot of the illustration rares are getting very expensive in PSA 10s. Slabs have obviously dominated kind of a lot of the Pokemon news. And there's really just not that much Black Bolt and White Flare out there at this point. Elite Trainer boxes are going to move up. And they're actually moving up quite a bit. Every video I make about them, they seem to go up $5 or $10 over the course of, the weeks that kind of pass. It wasn't long ago when I vended, they were like $125, $130. They are already at $155 with really, really strong sell through. 10 boxes a day in this market with this amount of supply, 130, 50% gain over the next 3 months. I don't think it's completely out of the question. North of $200, more expensive than Prismatic Evolutions, I think is highly likely at this point. Which is why, Pokemon's interesting. Investing is interesting. And I mean investing, like buying for the long term, But also, there's just going to be opportunities sometimes where you have to look at the relationship between supply and demand and consider the possibility of reprints. I bought Paradox boxes at $90. I didn't think it was the greatest set of all time, although I do like Paradox Rift, as you know. But at the time, it was so cheap, I was like, how can it possibly go that much lower? Of course, now they're pushing $300. Not the greatest investment in the world, but a darn good one. I like buying things that I feel have potential with somewhat minimal downside. Now, the thing about Black Bolt White Flare is that it's well in print for, 2 more years, basically. So there's time. But again, the Pokemon Company, they ain't printing shit in 2026 that's going to be that significant. We just got a Prismatic reprint. which is still getting chomped through. It's going to be the 30th. That's the focus for them. Then we still have all those Mega Evolution sets. And then it's going to be Gen 10. And you don't think that they're going to go big for Gen 10. You don't think they're going to print a lot of products. You don't think that people are going to want that product. They are. Assuming the sets are decent, which it seems to be trending that way. Every era seems to be, better than the last or more desirable than the last, right? Up and to the right is kind of the motto. Of course, there's sets that are better here and there, but generally speaking, more people like Scarlet and Violet than they do Sword and Shield. More people came into the hobby for Sword and Shield than they did for Sun and Moon. Even though I think Sun and Moon's a better era, probably. But alt arts are awesome. But Mega Evolution, also really, really great. Super fun to rip. Really great chase cards. Mega Evolutions, what is there not to like? Black Bolt and White Flare are going to be moving. Do not be surprised if bundles are $100 and ETBs are $200 in the next couple of months. I would not be surprised at all. There is no whispers of reprints for this set in the short term. So, kind of looking that way. It's kind of looking like it's going to go up. Very quick message from today's sponsor, the Collector app. You already know they are the premier app and tool to track your Pokemon portfolio, and you want visibility into exactly how much your cards and your sealed is worth. Also, just a phenomenal user interface. Love using the app. I like going to my portfolio and checking out the market movers, seeing which has gone up the most recently. Always good to have visibility into what you own. So links are down below for the Collector app. If you don't already have it, you should definitely download it. Thank you very much to them. Surging Sparks, we do need to talk about. I mean, we're still kind of in the accumulation phase, but the reality is like, there's a bit more quantity listed, right? 775 boxes up to $335. But over the last month, 415 have sold. In the world of Pokemon booster boxes, it's pretty strong, given the supply. 10 are being sold every day on TCG Player, not counting eBay. I think we're getting close to the point where we're going to see the $300 boxes in the summertime. I do think the summer has potential to kind of slow down. You're already feeling that amongst collectors and investors. People, I'm not going to say they're tapped out, but the Sauron Eye, bringing that one back, it's not satisfied with a surging booster box or a prismatic ETB where, you kind of need to wait for it to double because both have pretty high supply out there right now. It's just taking a little bit of time to get through them. The future looks very great for both, but it's like in this generation, people want that 300% flip, which is why they're buying slabs, which is why they're buying Lorcana. Lorcana, the word. Oh no. Again, I'll touch on that in a second, but like I'm not sure how many opportunities you have to get this at a reasonable price. And for me, over the next 6 months, like a 50% gain is pretty good. And I like putting money in things that I can count on because my mindset is probably a bit longer than the average person out there. Obviously, I've been making videos for a year. I've been into Pokemon since COVID era. So I've seen a lot of things and I just know what I'm comfortable with. A lot of my decisions are based on my own life with like my job and, the prospects of my career and just what I'm comfortable using my time to do in Pokemon. So I feel very comfortable putting money into sets like Surging that are well received, popular Pokemon, good entry point with a lot of potential over the next 1 to 2 years for obvious reasons. 151, I do want to talk about this in Paldean Fates here. We used to do an update on this block, essentially the G block that rotated out in April. It's only been 2 months. Isn't that crazy? It feels like longer. Time is weird. 151 is kind of in a stagnation phase, I suppose you could call it, where people are a little exhausted from the prices of it. but it's still having some volume and it's starting to fight back. And that's just what happens with time. Now, 10 to 20 bundles sold a day, around $200. I am not buying 151 at $200 a bundle. I think you're going to have time to get these. I think if you get them at a decent deal, like 160 or something like that, maybe a little more enticing. 151 is going to be great long term. It's always going to be in demand. So it's an S tier set, and you can count on S tier sets to stay in demand, right? But these prices are just super elevated to me. I kind of feel the same way about Paldean Fates. However, it does feel like there's not that much product out there. I mean, there's only 90 listed on TCG Player and about a 50% sell-through rate over the last month. For the PCTBs, 33 listed, 22 sold over the last month. It's actually quite strong. I mean, this is a pretty rare product at this point, which is why the value of it reflects that. I think the value though is in the packs here for the Great Tusk boxes. You know, there's like pretty good sell through. Still has some room to run. You know, you get how many packs? 11. You buy one for $250. What is the math on that? $22 a pack. I mean, if you want exposure to Paldean Fates, it's a reasonable option. But again, I'm not buying Paldean Fates because I'm already positioned in it. And that's kind of the important thing, is to position in really good sets before they run off, like Prismatic, like Surging, like Lorcana. You know, I think if you're buying Lorcana now, it's tough, you know. Feels like buying a box of Fabled. It's tough. Now, for the record, let me just say some things about Fabled, or Lorcana, rather. I don't like Lorcana. I don't like Disney. I feel nothing towards it, although I did used to watch a lot of the movies when I was young. But I'm not super into it. And I understand it can still be investable and you don't have to be into it. You don't have to explain that to me. I never said that it wouldn't be a decent investment in the future because it was so cheap, especially Fabled. I mean, I was messaging people about first chapter boxes in my area and stuff because I did see the potential there, but like, I, it just feels like it's just engagement bait to say that something is better than something else. I personally am happy that people are making money on Lorcana. I think it's sick. I think it's actually hilarious that a Winnie the Pooh card, aka Big Honey, which is the Go Lorcana card, by the way, is that expensive. I think it's hilarious. I think it's sick that people are making money. I understand that it's rare, and I understand that it's Disney. I'm not interested. But if you bought Lorcana or you bought One Piece in January, you know, I have One Piece. Like, I've 10x'd on my Awakening of the New Era booster box. Like, it's $1,000 right now. I know what it's like to see another TCG outperform Pokemon, okay? But I'm comfortable in Pokemon. I like Pokemon, and I believe in the IP more than any other IP. Literally any other IP. More than Star Wars, more than Mickey Mouse, more than Hello Kitty. I don't care what it is. I like Pokemon. It is the best IP. It's where I feel the most comfortable putting my money in this speculative world, this weird speculative world. And I think if any TCG goes up, dude, it like I'm not gonna take that away from somebody. Like, congratulations, it's sick. Make your money, man. Make your money. But like, just keep that mentality in the back of your mind. Like, you don't have to take away from somebody uh, to celebrate the thing that they're happy about. So, Lorcana doing well is a sign that the TCG market is doing well, and that means Pokemon is doing well, which it is. So, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. I don't plan on buying Lorcana, especially now that it's gotten so expensive, of course. I think, what's the new set? Wilds Unknown is pretty enticing, just given the value. I mean, the set values of some of these sets are pretty for real. Same with One Piece, you know, carrying on his will. Phenomenal investment long term. You know, you buy the best stuff in these TCGs, you're probably going to do pretty well with time. But it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few years. I mean, with Lorcana, yeah, like stuff is pretty rare, but it feels like liquidity is kind of tough, you know. We'll have to see what happens. Like the Sauron Eye is, it's not very forgiving, you know. Um, and it sustain these price levels long for the long term. Maybe it can. Maybe it can. I mean, if One Piece can, Lorcana could probably too. But I think some attention will eventually shift, and there's going to be opportunity and everywhere, but especially in Pokemon. And I think there still is. You know, rip and shipping continues to dominate this space. Prismatic packs just got bought out, but honestly, it's a drop in the bucket. Look at the volume since then. You know, 25 sold on the 11th. Obviously, it's because the price ran up $3, but this is good for Pokemon and prismatic holders in general, but I don't think it's like that big of a story. I think the bigger story is the Ascended buyouts, which much more sustained. 1,400 almost sold on the 10th, 500 sold on the 11th. There's of course a lot of quantity out there, but around $15, like I don't know if we see a world where these get that much cheaper than $15 for real, for real. Yeah, we're going to get reprints of Ascended, so I'm kind of taking a step back from it. You know, I mean, I have been for a while now, but I've been buying a few ETBs here and there, sub 150. You know, those deals pop up every now and then. I'm not making it up. So I'm comfortable buying that because I don't mind expanding on my Ascended position. But like, dude, people get so caught up on the stuff that happens in the short term, man. And I just think like, I don't know. It's so like you're investing in trading card games, you know. It ain't that deep, you know. The tribalism is strong. I'm just happy people are making money, and that sounds like kind of a cop out, like drama free answer, but that's genuinely how I feel. Pokemon is a big part of my life, but it's not the only thing I care about. Um, and I'm happy with how my investments have performed so far. I'm in a position financially that I never thought I'd be in at my age. And I'm so thankful for that. And Pokemon is the reason for that. One Piece is a little bit too, but like much smaller. And if there's opportunities in other TCGs, I'm looking at Riftbound Origins boxes. I'm not saying that's a great investment, but like they get down to MSRP long term. I mean, the time to buy them is after the reprints, isn't it? When things are cheap, i.e. Prismatic, right? Sword and Shield. I'm going to make a video on Sword and Shield tomorrow. I think my investing thesis has been shifting over the last 6 months since November, December. On Sword and Shield, I'm still bullish, but like I'm bullish on Pokemon in general. I think Scarlet and Violet, you know, despite how you feel about it, there's just more to chase. And the 10s are just more expensive, and most of the sets that are worth ripping. I'll touch on that more tomorrow, but dude, I'm happy if you're making money. I think we're still rocking in this bull market. That was really cringe, but it's true. We're still moving, progressing. You know, things have cooled off at least a little bit right now, but things are still close to all-time highs, you know, in a lot of instances, all-time highs. And that's worth celebrating, and I think there's a lot more growth to be had over the next few years. So I do appreciate you guys watching. Let me know your thoughts down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for 8,000 subs. That is insane. We crossed that this week. That's a pretty big milestone for me. 10,000's obviously on the horizon, but I'm trying to be more present in the day-to-day in life. So I'm just so thankful for you guys. And if you made a bunch of money on Lorcana or in Pokemon, celebrate that. Let me know what you're doing down below. Are you buying Lorcana? Are you buying Pokemon? Are you buying One Piece? Where do you see the value? I think I know where the value is in Pokemon, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Thank you again to the Collector app, and I will see you guys tomorrow. I might even go live today. We'll see. Goodbye.